Hello, everyone. This is Jovonni Christian, the host of The Beginning of the Never Ending. In this chapter, we archive the story of Jimmie Bishop. In his origin story as an artist, you will hear a young scholar's journey of higher learning and self-development, whether it's in teaching, engineering, sports, even music, an absolute journeyman of it all. This chapter, we have an art that is donated by Miss MKC. Also known as Marquan Christian. This piece was chosen by Mr. Bishop himself. We would like to take a moment to ask our community to watch this story through its entirety, and if you find value, please watch future shows on our After Dark channel. We'll have also a Discord channel. If you would like to join our community, please check out in the description below. And if you're an artist and would like to donate your paintings and potentially be featured on our show, you can message our moderator on Discord as well. In there, we discuss topics important and we share ideas to collaborate and help each other grow. If you like the show and want to join, we have a host. We host it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please join our chat, get involved. You might be invited to the show. So thank you again for your support, and without further ado, UCI graduate, Jimmie Bishop. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jimmie Bishop.
What's going on? Happy to be here.
What's up, Jimmie? How you doing, Mr. Bishop?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Good, man. Amazing. Yeah. So I always like to start off from the very beginning. Where's your family from, man? Where does it all begin? Do you know your kind of where you come from, ethnic?
You know what? I wanted to find out, but one of my professors in college was like, government's gonna get your DNA. Don't do that. They're gonna be able to track you. So I held off on the ancestry.com, but as far back as I know, my grandma on my mom's side, her family is from Texas. Like my grandma and her people. My grandpa on my mom's side was from Ohio. My grandfather on my dad's side was from New York, I believe. He kind of moved around a lot. And my grandmother, I think, was also from New York.
And that's from your pop's side?
On my dad's side, yeah.
Whoa, you have some New York blood in you.
I think it's weird because my dad's side of the family, they were in New York a lot, but then they also went to Detroit.
Oh.
Which is how I think my grandparents on my dad's side, they met in Detroit, but I believe they were both from New York. I think, yeah.
Did you get to meet them?
I did, yeah. My grandmother, I don't remember too much because she passed away when I was probably like a baby or very young.
What was her name? Do you want me to ask? Oh, what side though?
That's crazy. I don't even know her name no more. We called her Big Grammy. I don't remember her
Big Grammy? No, okay. And that's on your
name. That's on my dad's side. My dad's mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then your grandmother and your mom's?
My grandmother, her birthday's today. She just turned 84. 84 years old, yeah.
Shout outs to Grandma.
I know. That's fire.
Do you have any nicknames for her? Or is it just
Grammy? Let's call her Grammy, yeah.
Grammy. All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And then can you describe her? What type of personality she has?
She's hilarious. So it's funny. How do I describe her? She's very she's just funny. It's probably the best way I could put it.
She's a Texan, so she,
she has a funny sense of humor. I'll say funny and old is the best way I can describe her. Every time I see her, she tells the same stories all the time, and it's just funny, and it makes me laugh every time she says it. Like I've never heard it before.
Can you explain?
Like one story is she tells a story about when I was in kindergarten. She's like, Joshua, I came to pick you up one day, and, I got out the car and said, where's my pumpkin? And some little girl with glasses on looked at me and said, his name's not Pumpkin, his name's Joshua. And she tells that story every day. Like, every time I see her, every time there's a family around, she tells that story. Or another story about how I used to like when she would feed me when I was real, real young. I guess one time we was in Florida, and one of my other cousins was around, and I guess I was eating or something, and I was telling her to feed me or something, and my cousin Maurice, it's like, why is she feeding you? She feeds you? And I must have been like, nah, what are you talking about? Don't feed me, don't do that. And then, I don't know, she just tells that story a lot too, so.
It's interesting when you get to be around people. It's just the little things, that they appreciate as they get older.
Yeah.
Is your grandfather around too?
He passed away when I was in middle school,
Okay.
I want to say 8th grade, I believe. Yeah.
Do you remember his personality as well?
Yeah, he was he's very quiet, kind of dry humor-ish. I remember him cracking jokes and laughing every now and then, but I just remember him being quiet. Played a lot of jazz music, a lot of 94.7 so it's probably where a lot of my jazz influence probably comes from him. He was big into tennis, even into his old age. He was still going playing tennis and stuff. And he just was a fly old man. Like, he wore dad hats and polos and was just always very cool. Watched like Law and Order all the time. Yeah.
That's something about Law and Order, man. Yeah.
Law and Order, the regular one, the OG one. That's the one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did you able to meet your grandfather from your pop's side as well?
Yeah, he's still alive. He is an interesting person too. I think he's about 84 also. My dad's side has like some very good genetics or something like that. Because I'll start with my grandpa. He, to my knowledge, does not eat very healthy, but he's 84 years old. He still drives like everywhere. I'm talking long distance. Like a lot of, or some other old people I know his age don't drive anymore.
Sure,
they won't drive past the grocery store. He's driving hours if he wants to. He works still. He doesn't have to work, that I believe. He chooses to go to work. And he works long shifts. I think he does security. So he'll work like the night shift, which is bad for your health. But that's what he does.
They're built differently.
He goes bowling like all the time. He drinks a lot, like beer and stuff. It's always.
And he's out here in Cali?
He's in Oakland.
Oh, yo. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious here because you mentioned that your grandmother and your grandfather from your pop side are from pretty much around New York, right? East Coast. Yeah, your mom's side and your grandmother from Texas and your grandfather is from Ohio. Do you feel like your pops or your mother kind of gained the personalities of them?
I think my mom definitely takes after her mom, and I believe my dad takes after his dad for sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Can you describe your mom to you?
My mom is very joyful, very outgoing, always smiling, loud, very caring, bouncing off the walls everywhere. Super, super nice. Very Christian. That's how I describe her, yeah. Very, very, how do I say, strong person, that like strong opinions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So her beliefs on certain things, she can be pretty rigid at times in certain things, but she's learning to kind of, I don't know, go out and explore and learn new perspectives and stuff.
Grounded though, in faith terms.
Yeah, I would say somewhat. Yeah.
Pops.
My dad, like how would I describe him? Quiet. It depends.
It's like yin and yang here.
My dad is also very opinionated and strongly opinionated. He's Oh man, my dad is a character. He can be quiet at times, and then other times when he gets to talking, he just will keep going and going and going. But another big thing I'll say about my mom and dad, my mom was someone who would always, and growing up, she would always tell me what she was doing for me. Like, I did this for you, I did that. My dad is someone who would just do stuff and wouldn't really talk about it. He would just like, let's go to the park, or let's go get a donut or something. And he would never make it a thing. He would just do it.
Where earliest you can remember, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Riverside, so I'm from out here. I was born in Santa Clara in the Bay Area, and we moved down to Riverside when I was about 3 years old. And I spent most of my life, about 15 years or so, in Riverside growing up, and then went to college at UC Irvine for 4 years, lived on campus there, and then moved back to Riverside after school for a little bit, and was moving around a few different places. And then now I'm in kind of like out here, like 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to start there in Santa Clara. Do you remember your kind of early childhood?
No.
Much out in the Bay?
The first memory I have is actually it's like this vision I had. I was still trying to figure out what it means. But I think I was about 2 years old. So I was, raised Christian. Like my mom was big in the church before I was even born. My grandma, everybody before her. And I guess, or I believe I was accepted Christ at a young age. But I remember at 2 years old, when I think was the first time I did, I had a vision, and it was like, I don't know if I went to sleep, it was a dream, and I saw it was like biblical times, and it was this market, people moving, selling stuff, whatever, and I could just see it so vividly, almost like a scene of Game of Thrones. Like I just could see it. And
it's like you were there.
I think it was the scripture of when Jesus went into the marketplace and didn't like what they were doing and started flipping the tables and stuff. It was like that scene. And I just remember seeing that. And like that was it. I don't know where it went or like what happened next, but that's like the earliest memory I have that I can recall. And then maybe after that, I remember it came up in conversation. The lady who was taking care of me, like daycare, I remember Toy Soldiers came out.
Yo!
And I wanted to watch it, and my mom wouldn't let me watch it. I remember getting very mad. It's like, Toy Soldiers. I just couldn't watch it.
So, how would you describe kind of your early childhood time? Do you have any brothers and sisters? Or are you
I got an older sister, yeah.
Okay,
I'm the youngest.
okay. Older sister. And how old difference?
6 years.
Oh,
6
whoa.
years older than me, yeah.
Yo, okay. So there's some wisdom there. So as you moved to Riverside, that must have been a big change for her.
No, we lived together, so yeah, it was.
No, I mean like in terms of when you guys transitioned.
She's about 9.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So you growing up kind of with your I guess now in Riverside from the Bay. How was kind of that experience for you? Do you kind of think it was any memorable experiences that you had with your mom and your dad, or was it just, did you travel a lot? What was that kind of like?
What, just my childhood in general? Oh yeah, it was great. Ultimately, I want to make a movie about it because it was so great.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like a lot of love in the house. Lived in a pretty good area. Had family in the Bay Area. My dad's brother and my cousin, who were like just months apart. So every Christmas we would go up there. Every Thanksgiving we'd go up there. Every summer he would come down here. So I was hanging out. But yeah, it was great. Playing sports, playing like soccer, basketball.
Oh, you were active.
Yeah. So my mom, she's like, man, if you in this house, you gotta play a sport. I'm not gonna raise no fat kids. That's what she would say all the time.
Oh, you ain't lying talking about opinions. They.
Yeah, you know, and it's crazy. Like the older I get and the more reflection-based stuff I do, like meditating, reading, I'm learning like the little things that maybe I heard or that you say to a child could really affect
Their direction,
how they turn out. And sometimes you don't know why someone's mind grabs onto something versus something else. But and I think her saying that really caused me to get big into like health. My dad, he's been overweight most of my life. He's lost weight, gained it back, lost it, but he's been for the most part overweight. And seeing him mixed with having my mom say that all the time, I think it gave one of my biggest fears is like getting overweight. So I work out like really hard. I eat really good. Also just because I want to be the same kind of vitality when I'm older, like 80, 90, I still want to look the same.
kind of like your grandfather.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that is where that journey kind of started, just the fear of getting overweight.
Kind of going with that kind of health side and the activities there. Was both you and your sister super active?
Yeah, my sister was in soccer too and track also. So we both were playing sports.
And were you guys pretty close as well?
Yeah, younger, I don't know. I used to get on her nerves a lot. So I think it's just
any good brother gets on the nerves.
The age difference, but it was like, man, I used to antagonize. I still kind of have that. I poke people sometimes just to like get a rise out of them. But yeah, it was a lot of that growing up, and I guess she had other things she was dealing with, and then family stuff. So we weren't like best friends. We were just kind of it's almost like a professional relationship.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't hate each other at all,
Sure.
but we were, like, it's not like we was, I don't know. We was cool. We were more than cool, but we're a lot closer now. Once I got older and she started experiencing different life situations and I was able to actually speak to some of what she was going through and be there for her in different ways, we connected, like, way more. And she's like, oh, wow, you're, like, a whole person now. I'm like, yeah.
I'm leveling up.
Yeah.
So as you're kind of growing and getting in kind of like into, especially kind of like the elementary school age, you mentioned that you would travel a lot for holidays. You have like a pretty big family here?
Yeah, so most of my family, my grandma's down here. She's in Riverside. My mom is, still out here as well. My dad's in Covina now. His family, a lot of them are in the Bay Area, like Oakland, Sacramento. His brother, a lot of my cousins, aunts on my dad's side are up there. My mom's side, a lot of them are in Florida, Texas, Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah. That's where most of my mom's family's at. Yeah.
So are you like super family oriented, or do you?
Yeah, family is probably the most important thing to me above everything. Yeah.
Why is that?
To me, that's just what life is all about. Like, I'm blessed to have, some of my friends are just people I've gotten to meet or been exposed to, very financially well off, and just seeing like, as much as people say or whatever, but money really won't fix all your problems. And I've had certain people I met where at the height of their success is when they were the most miserable. And it taught me, like, one of my friends, he was like, yeah, after a certain point, it's just numbers on an app. So like, it doesn't really mean much. It's like, how many more things can you buy? So to me, like, spending time with family or friends or loved ones, like, there's no amount of money I can make or that could replace that feeling I get when I'm around them.
Yo, that's love.
Yeah.
For real. When you go into kind of elementary school, what type of personality do you have?
Elementary school, this was like, I think I was a little laid back, but I was still, very, very hyper, running around a lot. It's kind of both. Weird. I used to read a lot. That's the thing about being a child. You had time to do everything. I had time to play games all day. I had time to read all the time, be outside all day, and sleep forever. I'm like, and watch all kind of TVs and movies all on the same day. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. At times I'd be a little quiet, reserved. I was always patient. It was a trait that I've had ever since. I remember I was the kid where somebody's taking forever at the water fountain. I'm like, it's going to be my turn eventually. Get whatever you need.
Wow.
Yeah. Patient, a little laid back, but also pretty hyper.
So, of any key friends?
Yeah, my homie Brian, I've known him since kindergarten, and we still like best friends. So he's the friend I've had the longest, definitely. After him, Zach, who I work a lot with for music, I've known him since 3rd grade. My other homie Elijah, who like DJs with us, I've known since like 3rd grade, I believe. I think I met them at the same time. And I got friends from high school, Joseph, who I went to high school with, and then my homie Jordan, who I met in high school as well. Those are like the friends I've had the longest. Then my video guy, Mikhail, I've known him since high school also.
Wow, you're really good at building these connections, huh?
You know what? I guess, but it's funny, like, you don't really think about that.
Oh, really?
Now being, a professional or whatever in music, like, it's something I'm becoming more aware of now. Like, oh, meet this person and make sure you follow up and do this and that to build the relationship. But a lot of my longest standing friendships never was like that. I had one friend that I did that to, and I actually told him this not too long ago. It was a very like deep conversation we got into. I told him, like, when I met him, because he's a business owner, and it's a crazy story. Like, we met in this business program at UCLA, and he was doing his thing, but it was real small. He wasn't doing it for that long at the time, or maybe it was about 4 or 5 years or something, 3 years. And he showed me the page, and he might have had like, I don't even know if he had 1,000 followers on it yet or something. But when I looked at it, I saw like, my mind read like 500,000. That's what I saw, like, when I looked at it. And I was just like, man, this guy is going to go on to be very successful, famous, whatever, do lots of good things. I want to make sure that I'm there to be just be his friend, because I know a lot of people, if not already, are going to ask him for things just because of who he's going to become. So let me make sure that no matter what happens, he could lose everything tomorrow. Like, I'm going to still be there with him despite everything. And yeah, it was a deep moment. I finally told him that, and it was like a deep moment we got to share. But that was the only relationship or friendship I have where I was like, and then my friend Joseph in high school, he was like one of the coolest guys in school. So I was like, I really wanted to be his friend because I thought he was so cool. It's like, man, like, I want to be his friend. So that's probably those 2 times. Yeah, that's about it.
I think friendships is a really big part, and you have like this kind of 2 sides to you, where you kind of have this big family that you give a lot of connections with as well, but you also have a good friend group as well, as you kind of picked up along the way, go through the journey and path. You mentioned that you're like really patient, right? You also mentioned that you really cared about your health as well. Kind of going from elementary school throughout middle school, and obviously you already alluded that you went to UCI. How was school at this time? Like, how important was that, and your relationship with your teachers and kind of like your coaches?
I mean, school was everything in the beginning because I thought I was originally on track to be a computer scientist, like a programmer. That's what I was originally going to school for. So it's like, oh, school, you got to do your homework, you got to get good grades. That was all I knew. So my mom pushed that big. Relationships with my teachers, I guess I just didn't want them to hate me and have to call my mom and then I get in trouble. So I didn't really care too much about having a deep relationship with them. There are certain teachers that stuck out to me that I did form kind of a bond with them. And I'd always be like, I'm going to come back and visit you, and never did. But yeah, I guess school was important until I decided to go a different route and kind of work for myself. But until that point, yeah, I thought it was very important. Coaches wasn't too big on a relationship with them either. It was cool. Yeah.
So these were working relationships. Even as you're kind of going through elementary and middle school, you're really are just honing your family and your friendships as you're going through this stuff. But you also go and you're in extracurricular activities. Seems like you're like just extremely busy kind of kid.
Yeah, but I didn't even know that that's what I was doing as a kid. I'm just meeting people, making friends, having fun. Like I didn't really think too deep in anything.
But it also felt like as if that your mother had a really good like stern like path, like hold you to high standards.
Yeah.
Was your father able to be there to help you through that as well?
Yeah, my dad. I think my dad. It's funny because my dad, I'm pretty much a clone of him. We're like the same person. My love for music comes from him. I probably wouldn't even be doing music if it weren't for him. My love for movies, I think, comes from him, movies and TV. My love for sports, even though I'm not like a super sports head anymore, but I think I got that from him as well. So he just, more of, I guess, him being present every day was an example for me to kind of glean from. I kind of took that for granted a little bit because I have other friends who it's an issue for them that they didn't have like a father figure around, and I never really got to know what that felt like because my dad had always been there. Yeah.
You mentioned this kind of love for movies, TV, sports. But it also felt like your mother was extremely like, hey, look, you know, there's some high, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you feel like she kind of helped stoke that fire, or was it more of like, hey, listen, don't get distracted?
Yeah, it was kind of that. Me and my dad be watching the Laker game, and my mom would come in, turn it off. They made their millions. What are you doing? It's not doing nothing for you. So yeah, my mom was very urgent, which is, again, I think that probably rubbed off on me too. I can be very urgent on, we got to do this now, we got to do this, and then always on go all the time. Probably comes from my mom.
Do you know why she always had that personality when did you kind of figure it out as you were growing up?
I think she, from what I know, my grandparents didn't really push them too much to do much of anything. So I think when she had me and my sister, she wanted to be an example of what she didn't see when she was younger. I think that's where a lot of that came from.
Is it kind of like this reach the full potential type of thing?
Yeah, because my grandma and grandpa were very hands-off with them. Maybe a little too much hands-off from what my mom and uncle have told me. But yeah, I think that's probably where that comes from. And
did it feel... hopefully there was no resentment or anything.
No, I love my parents. I talk to my mom almost every day, my dad almost every day. definitely.
So you had a good understanding where it was coming from.
Yeah, I knew it was always from a place of love. I think I was someone who I did whatever they told me to do. I was very obedient. Whatever they said, I kind of believed it and took it for law. I was very, very sheltered as a kid. So it wasn't until I got outside of the house that I started to experience different perspectives, and then started to learn like where develop my own beliefs, and then also some of how I am, where I get that from.
Going through high school, I heard I imagine we're going out a lot, kind of interacting with different people, learning about different cultures and environments. Or do you still feel like during this time
it really started in elementary school? Because I went to private school, private Christian school, all from preschool to 5th grade. And then after 5th grade, I'm not sure what happened, but I got put in a public school for the first time. 6th grade, in the middle of 6th grade. And that was a whole culture shock for me. Like, I'm 12 years old at the time. And these kids talking about like cursing and doing drugs and all kind of sex stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? And then going to the middle school the next year, now it's like talking about porn. And I'm like, what is that? And I got the kids like showing me the stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is different. Like, yo. And yeah, man, it was wild. And then also getting around I feel like in private school it's very sheltered, very like we're all gonna be friends, whatever. Public school is when, now the kids are calling me like whitewashed because of how I talk. Like, oh, you're not black, or
what? On
one hand I'm like not black, and on another hand they call me Blackie Chan, can I touch your hair, like this and that, and I'm not even really understanding what any of that means. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, sure, I guess, just kind of going along with it. But then like, yeah, because my mom, I couldn't watch like Friday, none of that stuff. My mom wasn't having that, but she let me watch Boys in the Hood, which I don't know. So I couldn't watch none of the movies, TV shows, a lot of music I couldn't listen to. I would have to sneak and listen to Power 106 or 102.7 when she's at the store. Me and my sister stay in the car, turn on the radio and turn off when she come back. So when I got to public school, I couldn't relate to a lot of the other black kids because I didn't watch those shows. I didn't listen to that music. So I was kind of outcast for a little bit until it's weird. I kind of had to, I guess, develop my black card, which, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can kind of hear it.
Yeah.
The culture essentially was something you were detached to a little bit. Current culture, I imagine. But
it all changed when I got my first laptop in middle school. I got this little netbook, for Christmas in 7th grade, and that's when I got into discovering music for myself for the first time. So before that, I would just hear whatever my dad played or had, whatever my mom played, whatever my sister played. But now, that was when FrostWire was out. So I'm like downloading everything, mixtapes. I'm on Hot New Hip Hop. I'm on Dat Piff, like downloading all kind of Lil Wayne and Eminem and Drake and all this stuff. And then I'm starting, listen to more music, and I'll say music. A lot of the movies, the black movies, I didn't really see until like college. The TV shows, I still kind of never got into. I've seen Boondocks episodes, but not many. Seen episodes of Martin, but not the whole thing. Like, I don't know.
You had this like innocence in you.
Yeah, and I think as I got older, for some reason, people tell me I have an accent. They're like, "Oh, are you from the South?" I'm like, it doesn't sound like that to me, but that's what I've been told. So I guess as I got older, I kind of got more comfortable with my skin, got my swag, and then I didn't really have those issues anymore.
This the music side of things. I take it most of your friends that you're connecting with was through that as well.
Well, with Brian in kindergarten, he was just, I think, two of the only black kids in school.
Really? I didn't realize how different Riverside was at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a private school, so I think, only people with money really can afford to send the school we went to, I believe, was very expensive.
For a Christian school?
Yeah,
Private
Riverside Christian. So
yeah.
I know Brian, his mom was in the military, so I'm pretty sure she got some kind of like discounts or subsidies or whatever for that. And then my parents, my dad always made really good money. He was like a quality engineer. He worked at Motorola for a long time. And my mom, she also made decent money working for like volunteer centers and like the administration, like stuff like that. So they had, I guess, money to send me to the school. So there weren't a whole lot of black kids there. I think as I progressed through the grades, there were more.
This is in the early 2000s, right? We're talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like there were probably like 5%.
Sure.
Like if there was a class of 30 kids, it might be 2 to 5 black kids in there, kind of deal.
So, but growing up though, like you had this connection with music that you're starting to go into, this big passion of yours. It's kind of odd how like someone tells you a good example of like you have this magnet, right? Yeah. And you're trying to keep it from touch, but once you let it go, like once your mother kind of gave you that Chromebook, you just snapped and just got sucked.
I always, man, it was my dad's fault probably. I mean, it's probably bound to happen, but music I fell in love with music. I can remember the first time I ever heard a song. I think 3 years old. No, I think I was 4 years old, and we were driving somewhere, and my dad's car broke down. And we're on the side of the road in this gulch somewhere waiting for AAA or someone to come fix the car. And I'm in the passenger seat going through stuff, and I open the glove box, and I see this like cassette tape, and I was like, what is this? He's like, oh, it's an album, it's music. And I was like, music, what is that? I mean, I'm like 3 years old or something at the time. And he puts it in and plays it, and I was like blown away. I was like, what? It was Carlos Santana, Maria was the song.
Holy cow.
I was like,
Maria,
I was stuck.
That's a banger right there.
Ever since. I'll never forget it. And then.
Wow. 4 years old, first time listening, hearing music, like intentionally.
Well, no, I could remember. I mean, obviously, I've probably heard it in shows and TV or whatever, but just
it was this like
it was
broken
a
down
different
the car,
experience. Like
put it in the cassette tape, like
cassettes.
That's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
There is a different feel with that for sure.
Yeah,
popping in the cassette tape, broken down the side of the road with your pops, jamming to Maria. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then ever since then, it was like. Just whatever my dad would play, I just remember having these spiritual experiences in the car, like while he's driving, just internally, I'm like, this is amazing. Like
going through Revolution in it.
Yeah, just playing all kind of like Jay-Z, Justin Timberlake, Michael Jackson, like even like jazz stuff, like Lynn Roundtree, Jonathan Butler, like lots of different kinds.
Your music palette is really really big.
Yeah, I've heard, I've listened to lots of different kinds of music, but it's also funny because I couldn't listen to a lot of stuff. I missed out on so many like groundbreaking albums because my mom wouldn't let me hear them. So like stuff I had to go back and listen to later. Like I didn't discover Tupac till I was in college. Like obviously I'd heard songs, but
not the history.
I couldn't never a whole album or like. Never a whole Outkast album, or like still ain't heard no whole TLC album. I don't listen to that. Or like all kind of stuff that I didn't hear. But I heard a lot of gospel records, a lot of R&B from my sister, and then like Southern rap, which is crazy now that I think about it. My dad played a lot of Southern rap, like Nelly, Murphy Lee, T.I., and now for musically what I do, that's kind of the direction like I've migrated into. That's crazy.
You mentioned kind of the gospel. Did you go to church often, or?
Oh man, I used to, like 3+ days a week be in church. Sunday, you're there all day from 7:30 to like 3 p.m. Wednesday Bible study. Then you got Tuesday men's group. Thursday is like choir rehearsal, and I'm working doing the sound for them, so that I'm there for that. And then sometimes you go on Saturday, like sometimes they got Friday night revivals. I was in church almost every day, like all the time.
So you it's interesting. You have this two worlds, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of have this really, and this is all before high school. This is all kind of like that whole high school journey is just the power of like the music side of things. You're really into your studies. You're really into like the school side of life, you know. But you do sports, right? You do music. Well, I don't think you're practicing music right now, right?
No, I didn't start, I guess, practicing music until like 8th grade, like middle school. Yeah.
But you were consuming a lot.
Yeah. A lot of music every day.
Digesting it. That's really cool. And that's but it's awesome to kind of see this two sides, right? You have your mom. I could completely understand. Like it's kind of your mom's side. Just that grounded in faith. The hey, look, like to make some sacrifices to have the big goal at the end, right? And then your pops is like kind of like the moment, you know, live in the moment, kind of the music and the journey and the culture side of things. And I could see this kind of dichotomy growing inside of you.
Yeah. But you know what? Not to cut you off, like I'm getting kind of irritated that my parents didn't see like how obsessed I was with music and like push me into that, because I would always ask about like if there's like 106 in Park is on, I'm like oh, look at that, and like how do you do that? And my mom would always just shoot it down like, nah, you can't do that, or whatever. That's like a fantasy thing, not a real job. So yeah, that kind of kept me from. I didn't get into music until college.
Who supported the music process? I mean, I imagine the friends, like
really
the homies.
Nobody.
Really?
I mean, I got into music by kind of by accident. It was my friend Jordan who, the more successful his clothing brand ended up taking off and getting very successful, and being like we were roommates in college, so I'm right there every step of the way from, you know, packing orders in his mom's living room to like seeing where it's going, like it's literally blowing up and changing his life and all his family's life and even mine and all his other friends' life. And seeing that progression inspired me to like, you can do whatever you want to do in life as long as you just stay dedicated, work hard, don't quit, and give it your 100%. So I was like, you know what? I'm in college for computer science. I hate it. I'm failing because I don't like doing assignments. And I'm like, I just thought, I was like, man, all these kids, thousands, tens of thousands of students in these colleges to graduate and go for the same few jobs. It's still going to be hard to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, computer programmer. It's not promised doing that either. So it's like, I might as well, I feel like I have a better chance of success pursuing something that I actually want to do than trying to do something that I don't like. And I had, with sports, I ended up getting really good at football and was too scared to bet on myself to go play that at the college level. So I was like, you know what, I got enough regrets. I'm not about to let this music thing be another one. So I just decided to go 100% into it. And that's kind of how I got into music, was from that.
You said you were writing in middle school, or?
So in middle school is when I can remember when I would go to I spent the whole summer at my cousin's house. And we were going through this speech and debate program up there and playing travel basketball and
this doing lots.
This is in the Bay Area. And I remember we would like freestyle with each other, like in the car. We'd put on instrumentals and just rap. Maybe even before like 7th grade. And in 8th grade, he actually took it more serious, and he created a mixtape, like cover art, released it, was releasing songs, was recording himself on like GarageBand. And I was like, man, that's amazing. And like the family, everybody was supporting him, and like I was like, dang, that's really cool. I wish I could do that. Like, and then I guess later it ended up happening for me too.
You mentioned kind of like you're sitting here. I imagine you're graduating, and you're like, man, what do I do? You know?
Well, man. Yes and no, because when I graduated, it's funny, man. Like, I have this. It's good and bad. This thing where I can believe so strongly in certain things. So I was doing music. I had started releasing songs my junior year of college, and people was liking them. And then when I was about to graduate, I was releasing my first mixtape, and I was like, yeah, I'm about to put this out, and I'll be out here, so I don't need to worry about nothing. I'll be a superstar tomorrow. And then so I remember not being nervous in that sense, but also I didn't graduate on time because I switched my major super late, and there were some extra classes that I had to do that I didn't finish in time. So when I was like walking the stage, I didn't have my diploma. Like, I had to go take online classes afterwards. And I didn't even really sink in because I was like, oh, I'm going to finish in the summer. And then I didn't. And it took me like an extra 2 years to get my degree. And I almost was over it. I was like, man, I'm not about to do it. It's my uncle that pushed me to really go get it. So I'm glad I did.
UCI is no joke. That's a pretty
it's crazy because there are actually a lot of it's actually an interesting situation. I knew a lot of black students, especially who, when you're a freshman, everything's all good. We're all partying together. But going into your senior year, like, there are some people who, like, didn't handle their responsibilities, and they might be walking at the black grad, like I was, and then it's like, oh, yeah, you going to the regular graduation? Like, nah, I don't want to do that. You know, black grad was better anyway. When it's really like, you can't because you don't got your credits done. And I know people to this day out of my class who still don't have their degree. It's deep.
It's you kind of have where you always had this passion of music and, you know, pushing that work out. You also kind of have this kind of goal that you mentioned, computer science, which you want to get into. You have sports in that life as well. But one of the questions that I asked was kind of like the support system. And you felt like no one was really there. It was kind of you had to kind of push yourself to make that jump. Was that nerve-wracking? Do you kind of feel judged by kind of the family side, or was it more of like, no, you know what? They all kind of had your back.
You know, it's crazy. Like, I kind of wish, now that I think about it, that I could go back to that mindset I had when I first started, because everything was just it was purely creative. I didn't know anything. I just knew I just wanted to do music. I just started writing, recording. I didn't really care too much like how stuff sounded as compared to whatever. I just knew I liked it, and that was enough for me. Versus, and in the beginning, like, I feel like it's this phase of creativity where people look at you like, you know, keep going. Like, they don't want to shoot you down.
Sure.
And then you get pretty good. And then you get to this is actually pretty good. I was like, you know what? I ain't gonna say it on here, but you know I want to say, like, I would actually listen to this. Like, come on now. Like, and then now I'm at the point where, as I've progressed even more, now I have a whole lot of opinions coming in. And that can be has been very hard to like deal with. So many different opinions, like, you should do this, you should do that, we want this, we want that. And now I'm at the point where I say I'm in my my STFU era. Like, that's the music that I'm making right now. Whereas when I press play on it, you just get quiet. Because it's like, oh, okay. So, yeah, early on, I didn't really have, I'll say Jordan, he was like a big supporter and still is of my music. You know, he would play my songs on his Instagram Live, and when we're going to, I remember, which I never got to tell him either, like, one of my big early starts, it was crazy, man. When I first started doing music, I prayed on it, and I was like, okay, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. Some crazy stuff started happening, like, right in the beginning. I remember maybe, like, that winter, you know, we're going to meet people for his clothes, giving them clothes and stuff. One of the people we connected with was this rapper Kaz out of Dreamville, and he, I got to, like, rap for him, and that was Jordan kind of set that up to happen, and obviously nothing happened because I wasn't very good at the time, but just that experience was cool to have. And then, like, a month later, he does a show, and I'm backstage, like, with J. Cole. It's, like, right here. And I'm just like, I've only been starstruck probably twice in my life. That was the first time.
J. Cole.
And it was kind of sad because I was trying to act like I wasn't, and he just, like, kind of wanted to be out of there. He's like, who's this guy? Get him out of here. Like, and I was just like, no, don't do that. I didn't really say nothing to him, but just being there, like, in the same room with him was crazy to me. And then another time was with Kendrick. Whoa. I got to meet Kendrick, like, at this, like, private show he did for to Pimp a Butterfly album. And yeah, somehow, like, we just finessed our way in there and to meet him, and I couldn't even really say nothing to him. I was just like, thank you, bro. Like, you're an inspiration. He's like, I appreciate that. Like, I heard that 1,000 times, but, like, yeah, man, like, stuff like that was happening, and a lot of it was because of Jordan. Like, he was kind of putting me in position to have those opportunities, and also playing the music a lot places, even though it was not very good at all. But he still was, like, championing that for real.
You know, that's crazy because a lot of people kind of, like, want to, you know, push someone down, especially if their talent doesn't meet. It's like, but the perspective is odd, you know. You don't expect someone who's just starting, you know, med school to know how to, like, do heart surgery, right? Like, yeah. But they expect an artist who just gets started to know how to start, like, rapping like they never rapped before, and they're like, you know, they're like rap god here. It's like, I think it's just a craft that you build over time, and it's really cool to see that you're, like, you're not discouraged. Even, like, these moments that you're not missing in terms of, like, you're not, like, 100% popping off, killing it, you know. There's still a sense of, like, hey, man, you're taking them as blessings. Like, your perspective is so grounded, right? I imagine, like, going through college, right? Like there must have been some tough times. I imagine even going to school, you mentioned, like, shoot, I'm not graduate. I have to step up myself, you know, like, you know. But you've always kind of have this sense of optimism. It seems you mentioned this word again. I keep wanting to bring it back up, but it's kind of like health. And it feels like not just physical, but it seems like mental health you really protected as well. What kind of ingrained that in you to kind of, even during these times where you felt like, oh, I messed that up, but all right, I'm excited about life. Like, it felt like there was no down days. It felt like it was really good. And that's awesome.
I think I've always been very positive since I was a kid. I think I inherited that from my mom. With the whole mental health journey, I think that stemmed from just going through negative situations. And it's funny, like, your trials and your losses, you know, if you look at them close enough, they become lessons. So
I bet, is that more from sports, or is it?
No, that's from just personal. When I really got big into, like, my mental health was my first bad breakup. It was this girl I dated for 4 years in college, and it ended very bad. And that was my first time experiencing real heartbreak, and that emotion is, like, that feeling was the worst thing I've ever felt in my life. It felt, actually, that was until I went through some other stuff later. But that first one, I remember I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, just physically felt, just was in pain, just like this. And there's nothing you could do to stop it. And it was around that time that I started getting more into like mental health, like meditation, just to kind of get those feelings under control. And, you know, just kept building and building, and now I'm on this. And then after that, I dated another girl who was a very toxic relationship. So I think the more negative experiences I had, it would push me to want to sharpen myself so I can keep from having those experiences again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Love, it seems like the love for music was almost a better relationship than kind of the, like, you know, the love with another person. Yeah, that's an interesting type of dynamic there. We didn't really touch base about kind of like your journey with love. But one of the things I'm curious about, though, you mentioned going through college, and as you're progressing through there, you're doing that, managing your relationships, right? You know, when you did graduate, you know, about a year or two later, you mentioned now you felt like that was a really important thing that you did because your uncle pushed you. Why was that kind of the monumental moment here?
It just felt good to have, I guess. As much as he would say that, and I'm like, man, I know people who didn't even graduate high school and they multi-millionaires. Like, this degree is not going to do anything for me. He's like, just go finish what you start, whatever. Mm. And I don't know, it just feels good to
finish what you start,
have completed that. And also, that led me, like, occupationally to do, like, outside of music, other doors were able to be open because I had my actual degree. So it did actually serve a purpose later, even though I was thinking I was never going to use it.
Your work relationship, have you worked through most of your life or only after?
Yeah, I started working in high school. My first job, I worked at McDonald's, just, you know, working there, serving, whatever. Then in college, I worked at Fresh Brothers. I was delivering pizzas. I love that job because I was, you know, it's Irvine, right? So I'm delivering Irvine, Newport Beach. So I'm getting, like,
talking to these, like, crazy people, right?
Man, like, I'm driving this beautiful scenery all the time. I'm listening to music. I'm writing songs in between, waiting for the pizza to be made. And I'm getting to see these different neighborhoods and houses and stuff like that. And it just...
getting inspiration.
Yeah, like, I think that job made me fall in love with Irvine as a city. Like, eventually I want to settle down and live in, like, Newport Beach area. I think a lot of that comes from that job, getting to drive and explore the area. Then after that, I did an internship. I was working for Vivint in Texas one summer. That was really fun. Just living completely away, out of state for 3 months by myself and getting out, exploring the city, having different experiences there. That is where I got my initial love for country music from. Like, it's not like I'm not finna put on country music, like,
that's, you know, dope.
I don't ever have a field to listen to it, but I finally understood it when I went to the club in Texas and Drake comes on, everybody sit down. And then Brad Paisley comes on, everybody's turning up. I was like, oh, I get it now. Like, they're really wearing the hats and the horses and driving trucks. Like, that's really their lifestyle. I was like, oh, okay. And then ever since then, I was like, I get it. Then after that, went back. And after I graduated or didn't graduate, I was trying to find a job anywhere I could. Man, I worked at this staffing agency where I worked at George Lopez's restaurant. That was actually really cool. It was during the LA County Fair, and the food there was very good. And I was getting free food, like, every day.
Shout outs.
So shout out to George Lopez. Then I was a dishwasher for a little bit, but it was kind of cool doing that too. In the moment, I thought that my life was over. Like, it was miserable. But looking back, it was kind of cool because, I don't know, it was like this, whatever stadium it was at, and just getting to go behind the scenes there, and Earth, Wind, and Fire was performing. I got to watch it. Like, so it was pretty cool. Like, I was like, that's not bad. Then I worked at this, car auction place. Now that job, that's the worst job I've ever had. Literally, like, you go, it's hundreds of y'all there, and you got to go pick whatever car they give you, and you got to drive it. You either got to drive it and go park it somewhere else for whatever reason, and it's every day. So during the week, you're parking cars all day. Then on Friday, it's auction day, so you got to drive the car up, and that is a weird experience, man, because you get in the car, you drive it up, and it's just, man, it's weird. You've got these people just coming, tapping on the car, and like open the car, and like it makes you think about like that's what they was doing during slavery, like, you know, tapping, like touching. It's weird, man. It's that same, and just like, I mean, obviously this car is a thing. It's not a human, but it was a very, very weird to see that. Like, it was strange. And then sometimes you get in some cars that's real dirty. I remember one time I got in a car, like, blood stains in it. Like, somebody for sure was murdered in this car. And I got to drive it, like, crazy stuff. I had to get up out of there, man. Like, but made it out of there. Then I got hired at Guitar Center. That was a job I always wanted. I always wanted to work there. And funny enough, like, the Guitar Center down the street wouldn't hire me. But I got hired at one in Orange County. So I would drive from Riverside to Brea, like, every day to go work at Guitar Center. And, yeah, I learned a whole lot there. Met a lot of people, learned about equipment, recording, engineering. Then that job opened like a lot of doors for me on the music level.
Yeah. One of the things I there was I kind of had the same feeling too. I felt like there was some jobs that I'm like, dang, I really want this job. I can't, you know. And I think it's kind of cool to be able to see someone kind of go through the progression. Work has something that does something to you. You kind of learn a lesson every time you kind of transition to a new career, a new job. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So, one of the big things I want to kind of learn now is just, you went through kind of the journey through your elementary, middle school, high school, alongside your kind of college time as well. You were talking about the progression of going and being able to get the degree that you have now. But you know that's kind of like, that's just a thing. It's like a paper, but it means a lot in the kind of like short-term monetization, but not in your kind of long-term goal. And how long ago were you able to finish?
2020 is when I finally got my degree. So it's like 3 years ago, yeah.
The last 3 years, what has been kind of the main focus? You mentioned Jordan has been a big part of that. You also mentioned you have your some other people as well, like Joseph and Brian and Elijah as well, who's kind of like help you in the creative side. How's kind of the creative going in terms of like now that like, hey, okay, cool. I have some, you know, my main job that I do, but I have this passion that I'm really trying to strive for. How's that journey been for like the last 3 years?
It's been pretty cool. I'm thankful I'm in a position where they're more together than I guess the average creative, you know, situation is, because after Guitar Center, I was going to the studio a lot for music, and it got to be very expensive, and I'm like, man, I need to learn how to engineer myself so I don't have to pay for studio time. So then I took a year where I just was kind of trial and error, trying stuff, YouTube, whatever. Went to school, got like a couple certifications, and then through someone I met at Guitar Center, ended up working in the studio, and then was able to quit there and just engineer full time for like a year. And then once I worked my way up with that and realized, I don't want to be an engineer. Like, it's not what I want to do. I quit that and was just living off what I had as long as I could, just doing the music thing, but going about it wrong. And then I went back to work and I got a job at Amazon. I was working as an area manager at a fulfillment center, and like where I had maybe like 100 something employees under me that I was managing, taking care of. And that was a very good experience because Amazon, they where they are for a reason. Like, I've never seen a company so organized. They have a metric. Everything is tracked, like everything. And when it went to like onboarding, which I never really paid too much attention to that, but they had this is how you do your job. You now have what you need to do it. If you need help, we have a whole learning department that will tell you whatever you need to know about how to do your job. So it was very organized. So now I'm taking a lot of the principles I learned there and applying it to my own business with music, because the music business, if you don't have your business square, you're not going to make a livelihood off it. But that job was very stressful. So I left there after like 6 months. And now I'm kind of this one thing where it's like artist / educator. So one of this program that I went through at 1500 Sound Academy, which is this big music production house, they started their own program. I got a scholarship through YouTube to go to it. And I guess Compton High School, or the Compton Unified School District, was pulling people out of that program to say, hey, we want to start a similar program at the high school level.
Oh, yeah.
So then talked to them. Everything seemed to work out. So then got hooked up doing that. So now I'm like, in addition to just being an artist mainly, not like trying to engineer all the time, not trying to produce or this and that. I'm just focused on the artist stuff. I'm also an educator at Compton High School, where I got to build my own audio production program, like from the ground up, and teach it like to the kids. Like that was very challenging but very rewarding. It was a very, very great experience. And now, like, instead of running from that, like, I don't want to do this, I just want to go make music, I'm starting to leverage my teacher side of what I do as well, and that's even opening more doors for me on the music side, because as a teacher you can get in anywhere. Just last week I was at Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, like oh, your teacher, come on, like, yeah, like, so all these businesses that I want to eventually partner with on an artist level, they're like, yeah, come on in as a teacher, and then I get in there, and then I can do what I need to do.
What's crazy is that you talk about your journey is so cool. You're a hard worker, dude. Like in a literal sense, but in a sense where I mean, like, in terms of educating, like, I think you're pretty much your entire life you have educated yourself, whether it be educating yourself in sports, in music. But you use it, right? Like, you educate yourself from, like, your mother was really like, even in church, right? Like, you use the stuff that you've learned even as you grow through your life. As you get older, you kind of continue to educate yourself. If there's a problem in your way, you're like, all right, I just need to go on YouTube, or, like, okay, your mom hands you, you get a like a Chromebook or a tablet. I don't know what you get.
Yeah.
Like, all right, cool, man. I'm going to just pour music in my brain. You read, you were writing, you're like constantly pouring knowledge about a problem or something you wanted to solve as you kept getting older. It's like you became, I would hate to say a professional student, but like you have really learned how to be a really good student, and you utilize those your student abilities to help you get these roles and positions to grow in a way that, like, a lot of people like would just say that's not possible, or they would just kind of like give up, or they, but that's so cool. It's like it's so cool because, even when you're like, fuck, man, I'm sick and tired of paying all this money to learn how to be. Okay, well, fuck it, I'll just solve the problem. Mm-hmm. I'll do like kind of my mom. I'll educate myself. Kind of do like your dad. He's a being an engineer, even quality engineer. Kind of like, okay, well, all right, if I you want something done right, become a professional. So you just became a professional engineer person, and then started writing things for districts, and that's really, really cool. That's so cool. And now being able to use those tools to be able to help yourself, right, and help your people around you, it's such a really cool aspect. Being able to kind of be able to take those skill sets and use them in a not in a just say any type of way, in a more positive way as well. Can I ask? I have one final question before we end. I'm really curious about, like you mentioned, as you were getting older, one of the kind of relationships that you were able to really bond with was with your sister. As you were kind of going through kind of like your journey with love and going through like your journey with just school and education and like your career path in which you have, how was your kind of relationship with your family, kind of especially your sister and your father?
It's been good. My sister definitely got very, very close with her as I got older. I still talk to her like almost every day when I can. But yeah, we're still super, super close. My dad, we're closer as well. He's now trying to get more involved with the music now as it's progressing and growing, which is a good thing, and I love him for that because he's kind of like my biggest fan. But it's also can be annoying at times because he called me at 1 a.m. with all kind of ideas and this and that, and he just keeps going like every day. So yeah, now I'm working on that relationship a little more because on one hand, what was like a happy thing for us that he's so into the music now it's getting to a point where it makes me not want to really be around him because it's like, can we just hang out and not talk about like work or none of this or that, like just hang out. So still working on that with him as well. But yeah, all our relationships with my family is good. For a moment I kind of was working on the balance because in music is pretty much like a self-employed, for the most part, job. So you can work as much as you want. So with me, I'm work all day, every day, like trying to, chase the journey. And that would pull me away from my family. And it was a balance that I had to figure out early on because when I'm with my family, I'm like, dang, I'm not working and I'm not being competitive or whatever. And then when I'm working myself to little exhaustion, then I'm like, dang, I ain't spent such and such time with my family. I miss them, whatever. And I kind of fixed that. But now I take Sunday as just a straight family day. Like I don't do any kind of music work on Sunday. I just go to church and then go to my grandma's house and spend time over there with them. And
fill your cup.
Yeah. And then that gives me the energy to go hard the rest of the week.
Kind of looking back at your life, being a kid, kind of have this Bay in you. You kind of have the LA, or I would call it the IE, Riverside out here. Kind of growing up in a really Christian household, but had some soul in it,
Yeah.
Especially your father able to kind of add that spice to life, some good cayenne pepper. You need that, right?
Yeah.
Your sister, you grow up with her as well, and you're going through the journey. But your friends, you had really good friends as you go through that process. Especially Brian, seems like he was there from almost the beginning.
Yeah.
Progressing through kind of elementary school at a Christian school, being only like the one of maybe like 5 black kids
Yeah.
in a classroom, and moving up and kind of finding your way and getting through middle school, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? Pouring out? Like, what's happening right now? Like, what? I thought we were all like what's going on? Public school completely, kind of shown like the craziness of the world, but you're still grounded. You still have like this, groundedness in faith. You go to church 4 or 5 days out of the week. You're still learning about yourself and music, right? You still have this kind of patient mindset, but this sense of like this love and passion that you want to chase after as well. You start writing, you start recording, and even through high school, you're doing sports. Like you're getting really good at it, almost so good you could have Could have went pro. But I think what's really cool though is that you didn't really take your foot off the pedal. You went to college, right? And even though you had a good idea of what you wanted to do, it seems like you were a very person who was like, I'm stern. I know exactly what I want out of life. I know, like where I want to go and how I want to go about it. And you fall in love, but that doesn't end like the best you would hope. But but at the end of the day, you get through it, right?
Yeah.
Because through hard times, it kind of helped you be able to help you through even other times. And the small things about like interacting with J. Cole and interacting with Kendrick Lamar and being able to go through shows and meeting your friends and being able to kind of grow with them, especially Jordan. You start finding yourself a little bit. You start creating yourself, start understanding what you really care about. And yeah, you foot off the pedal now. You're not really so into school, but your uncle pushes you and you get through it. Right? You gotta do what you gotta do, and you're not lacking hard work. You're still working throughout your entire time, even going through pizza joints and still dropping off pieces at these crazy big houses, and seeing awesome scenery and getting inspired everywhere. And even progressing through these weird auction jobs with bloods on the seat. You probably sitting on someone's corpse or something crazy.
Man.
Kind of looking back through all that and getting your degree and graduating and making a big difference and almost not self-teaching, but teaching yourself how to engineer and helping your counting school district and looking kind of like where you are now and where you're going. Is there any regrets about any of that stuff?
Main regret is that I just didn't start sooner. That's like I try not to think about it too much because I obviously can't change the past, but anyone else I come across, I just give them that advice. Like, whatever you think you might be interested in, just try it now. Because I feel like definitely there's an advantage to not being young and super famous, because I probably would have really messed some stuff up if I would have popped a long time ago. But So now that I'm like getting slowly, it's like a slow build, and I have a better sense of self. When I do reach that level, I won't spiral out of control or go too crazy. So that's kind of a benefit, I guess, to starting a little bit later, is that I'll be a little older when it finally pops off for real.
Looking back at your life as well, is there anyone you forgot to mention? Any
yeah, I definitely want to talk about Zach, who I do. He's been like my main person there with me through the entire music journey. I remember when I decided to go into music, it was when I was in Texas on an internship. I was out there calling different people, trying to find producers, and just kind of getting beats here and there. But I remember when I got back in the fall, like the first stop, I don't even know why I decided to go over there, but went to my friend Zach's house, who I grew up with, playing games and going to the park and stuff like that. And I told him, like, man, I'm going to do music, and I think you would make a great producer, because he taught himself how to play the guitar. And I was like, you know what? Most producers, I mean, that's not really the case, but at the time I was like, most producers don't know how to play instruments, and you know how to play guitars, so you have an advantage. You'd be really good. So he's like, oh, okay. So then we start doing the music thing together. We form like a small collective of people, and then we're all like meeting at my friend Mikhail's garage, like just writing songs all day, every day, and then recording on this little Bluetooth mic and GarageBand, and like just recording every single day. And Mikhail don't even know how nothing works. He just try to engineer, record as best he could. And then I don't know, just all those experiences. I mean, music it's hard. Like, and I've wanted to quit like all the time, but aside from physically being unable to quit, because every time I try to, if I don't record or make music, I physically get sick. Like something, I don't feel right until I get in there and make some new stuff. But the other side of that was, as my friends around me kind of started to push me into that leadership position, I feel like, man, brought all these people along this journey. If I quit now, then this may potentially stop for all of them also. So I got to keep going to make sure I don't bring them halfway out into the ocean and leave them there. So Zach was definitely a big one. Just, my first mixtape, he recorded me the whole time when I didn't know how to record. He recorded it. The first album we did, he produced every beat on there. Definitely grew together as a collaboration duo. Because he wasn't the best producer in the beginning, but the more we kind of worked and honed in on a sound together, we kind of created this thing that got pretty good. And I still work with him, call him, talk to him almost every day, because he's like my partner and everything. So I for sure would not be. I could say I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for him. Like, so definitely gotta make sure I mention him. And then Mikhail too, who I don't think I talked about. My video guy's done every video that I've ever put out. Always working with us, man, on the prices. Like, man, like, because obviously this is his job as well, so I'm gonna pay him for his time. But for the quality of work he does, he always gives us a discount. Some videos he's done for free because he believes in what we're doing and is always trying to help us get our vision out, even sometimes at the expense of like him losing sleep or whatever. So I definitely appreciate everything he's done as well on the journey.
That's what's up. Yeah. Looking at your future, what's the dream? What are you fighting for? What do you want out of life? What's the goal?
That's tough, man. I think I'm still trying to figure it out. On one hand, I say I want to be like the biggest, greatest artist ever. However, like, that comes with a certain level of sacrifice and commitment that I have been trying to understand if that's really what I want, because I value my family and time with my friends. But if I'm trying to be the greatest artist in history, like, I'm not going to get a lot of that, because I'll be touring everywhere. I'll be doing this, doing that.
You're going to make sacrifices.
So I won't be around as much. So now I'm starting to play with the idea of, I have certain friends in music who I've gotten close to where, they're very well off, like, financially. They're not the biggest artists in the world, but they, their music streams and they get their check every month, and they go maybe do a tour for a month, and then they home the rest of the time, like, doing whatever they want, going, exploring what else they're interested in, and they're not having to go, like, just run 24/7. And that has become very, I'm starting to kind of fall in love with that. So I'm still trying to figure out how far exactly do I want to take it with music, but I guess ultimately I just always got to aim high, because you could, instead of aiming low, I don't, like, just aim high.
Don't settle.
Yeah, so there's that. And then this education thing is something I've really fallen in love with, so I definitely want to continue to push that and ultimately open my own school one day at some point. So just, eventually grow the program that I'm doing now into my own school, because I have a vision for, like, I don't understand why elementary school, like, why can't kids major in elementary school is my thing. Like, why, like, I know as a kid you don't know what they want to do, what's going to stick, so you just throw a bunch of stuff at them. But what if you just didn't do that?
I think they do that in Sweden, actually.
Makes sense, because, like, most, like, I feel like the education system in America, it doesn't train you to be a boss. It trains you to be an employee, very good worker. And I think I was reading something somewhere that says that the modern system, how it's set up, I believe was either paid for or started by Henry Ford.
Ooh, so you're very familiar.
which makes sense because he assembly line. He wanted workers for his plants. So for me, it's like, man, if a kid knew he liked cars, if he could work on cars ever since he was like 5, or if you studied to be a doctor since you was 5 years old, instead of like, you don't learn a proper medical education like in elementary school or high school, and you're supposed to jam all this in college. Like, it's like I believe we would have better workers and companies or whatever if we just let people have majors. And so that's the school I want to start.
You know what? I'm interested to dive into this topic with you. Ooh, it's gonna be a good next show.
Yeah,
I would like to move on our next side of things.
Okay.
This is called the deep questions phase, where we go into like some of the deep questions about everything.
Yeah.
So I have some list of questions for you. They're not in any specific order.
Okay.
But it's actually really cool since now you kind of reflected on everything, on how your perspective is about certain things. So, all right. The first thing is, first question. What was the last kind thing you did for someone?
Good question. The last kind thing. Man, I'm trying to see if I did something today, hopefully. I guess the very last thing I did was I called my grandma and told her happy birthday. It was today. I think that was the last thing I did. Yeah.
Hey, man, shout out to Gram.
That might be a lame one.
Hey, but shout out to Granny, man.
Yeah, for sure.
When do you feel judged, and how do you handle it?
Judged. I think I feel judged when it comes to, it's a lot of like self-judgment, I think. I'm not really judged by, you know what? I'll say external judgment I don't do too good with. I have a friend who, like, my last relationship, kind of like things happened with it, and I made this mistake that I'll never do again, which is telling explicit details about like either a relationship or whatever I'm dealing with to too many people, because now it's like this thing where one of my friends doesn't like how I handled a situation or how I whatever, and they always bring it up every time I'm around, and it bothers me. And I've talked to him once and said like, yo, like, stop, we don't got to talk about it no more, like, but it's doing it again, and I just kind of like, when it comes to stuff like that or judgment or whatever, I just dismiss it and just ignore it, like, whatever, just tune it out. But I'm trying to get to a point of where like I don't tolerate it at all. Like, why does this person feel comfortable that they can even say this kind of stuff around me? So I'm trying to, obviously, because I care about some of these relationships maybe more than I should, but trying to get to a point where I can tell people, like, set an expectation of like, yo, you're not gonna like talk to me or any kind of way, without trying to ruin the relationship. So, yeah.
There's I brought this up because this reminds me of a quote me and Sarah just heard recently. Borders are set because it gives me the ability to love you and myself at the same time.
Dang.
Borders are set because it gives me the ability to love you and love myself at the same time.
Wow.
And if you have people in your life who keep crossing that border and you let them, it kind of puts you in a position where you feel like I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. You have a hard time, like, you know, believing and trusting yourself. So I completely understand where you're coming from. Actually, my father just told me this recently too. So, yeah, man, set those boundaries, set those borders, you know. And I imagine your friends will respect you for that, 100%. Sorry, I just saw that.
Thank you for telling me that. I'm definitely sit on that for some time. That was deep.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Thanks. What's the best mistake you ever made?
Best mistake I've ever made.
Jeez, Harry, pulling up the heat today.
I made so many, man. What is the best mistake I've ever made? I guess the last thing, I hate to say it, man, like, so I've had a lot of challenges this year when it comes to, like, teaching, because it's my first, I've never taught before, so I'm learning how to teach, learning how to manage a classroom. Then I'm also writing the program at the same time, like day by day as I'm doing it. So I'm doing a lot at the same time. And I had different instances come up throughout the year of like, you need to tighten how you manage the classroom and not be so cool with these kids. And it finally came to a head when like the day of graduation or like the last week of school, there's one of the doors to my classroom, like it doesn't fully lock all the way, and I brought it up and told the administration like a bunch of times, like, yo, this door, like there's equipment in here, can we get this fixed? Like, oh yeah, we'll get on it. I guess one day it was open, and one of the kids who I think did it, like, was a kid who wanted to be in the class so bad that I fought to get in the class. He like broke in and stole all of our computers, and they were all like brand new MacBooks that they bought that year. And that was like, man, that was real deep for me, because I'm like, my trust was broken. I feel like I don't know who I could trust with these kids anymore. I thought we had a relationship with them. Like, how could they do this to me? I'm thinking like, program's done, they about to get me out of here, whatever. And that was like I'll say that was a good mistake to make, because now, like, unfortunately, it's going to force me to definitely manage the classroom, like, way better next year. Like, there's no room for, like, letting stuff slide because of what happened.
It's weird how that happens.
Yeah.
When someone test you, now it makes it much harder. It's like that's how laws are made, right? Mm-hmm. Someone broke the law, and then now you're like, okay, we gotta set a new rule.
Yeah.
But raising the standards is just gonna make them better, right?
Exactly. Which is stuff I probably should have been doing before, and then also just other things I learned in the situation. So one, it's a very interesting job, like where stuff will happen, and I guess I don't have to like be okay with stuff happening. I can say like, yo, don't do this, because when I first got the computers, I put a password on them that nobody knew. Only they had to come to me to get the password. But one day the IT department decided to come in and reset the computers their way and make the password student and the same as the username. And ever since that happened, like, now they don't, like, I still was acting like, oh, you don't know the password, but kids is not dumb. Like, it's been students since they was in middle school. So then they started trying it, started working. So then they stopped having to ask me for the password. And I think that laid the foundation for them now, like, oh, I can take this home, like, because, I got the computer now. So had I, like, when they did that, pushed back on, like, no, you got to change this back, or let's change the password to something harder, then that might have never happened either. So there's a lot of different things I'm learning about the situation that next year, like, and even coming with that chip on my shoulder, like, the program about to be tenfold better. So.
You're literally being what you wished for. You mentioned this sense of, like, I wish I could major in something when I was younger. And now you're to be able to kind of pave the way for students to be able to have a path to get to that point. But every road that's built, there's some, there's some scars,
Man.
there's gonna be some, it's not gonna be easy. You're learning as you're going. You're building the train tracks as the train is moving.
Yeah.
So like, of course, these are gonna come mistakes, but that's really cool to learn from them. So that's actually the best mistake you ever made. That's such a good answer. I don't know if you want to add anything, but
more to add on that. Yeah, I mean, try to see the bright side. It was a crazy part. Was I was like, man, really stressed out. Like once it happened, and I had to go report it, and just thinking what was gonna happen. I remember just praying on it, like Lord, just fix it. And then like maybe 30 minutes after that, I get a message on Instagram of one of my students telling me exactly what happened. Like, yo, this is how it went down. Like, we saw you was upset and told me who did what happened. And the next day, like, some of the kids brought them back. I didn't get all of them back, but I got like 10 back. And it was like, man, like, we didn't want to do that to you, like our favorite teacher, man. It didn't feel right doing that. So they brought him back. And that was a deep experience. And then even getting to use that as a teachable moment. Like, yo, I understand, like, this wasn't a personal thing. Like, maybe you felt like you were stealing from the district and not from me. But every action you make has a ripple effect. Like, I could have possibly gotten fired and this whole program would have gone away. If this is out in the real world, you guys could have went to jail. Like, if like your friend says, hey, let's go do this, and you didn't necessarily do it, you just kind of went along, like, that's just as bad outside of school, like in the real world. So they're really trying to teach that to them. And so, yeah, man, I just try to make the most of it. So Will Smith quote, he said, in school, you get the lesson, then you get the test. But in life, you get the test, and it's your job to learn the lesson. So I try to, every loss or mistake, try to learn from it.
Love it. 2 questions, 2 more. In what way do you think you add to other people's happiness?
Good question. These good questions. How do I add? Definitely think my energy. I'm usually very uplifting and outgoing and positive and making people laugh and a pleasure to be around. At least I think so. And I always check in to see how people's doing. It throws people off sometimes. I have one friend who I always ask him, like, how are you doing? He's like, I'm good. What you mean? Like, what are you talking about? It's like, I think that throws people off sometimes. I genuinely, like, I want to know. And even sometimes if I know somebody's giving me a BS answer, I'll ask again, like, no, how are you actually doing? Like, it's not just a phrase. Like, I want to know. And I think that's one of my biggest strengths as well, is my emotional intelligence, being able to create a space for people to share how they're feeling, what they're dealing with, what they're going through, and being able to speak to that somewhat, to either give them a different perspective on how to look at their situation, or just kind of give them hope that things will improve or whatever.
And final question. What piece of advice would you give your 14-year-old self?
Start now. That's number one advice. Start now. Just, you want to do music, start figuring it out, writing, recording. Just start as soon as you can, whatever it is that you want to do. Don't wait. Don't wait on it.
Mr. Jimmie Bishop.
Yeah.
What's up, my man? How can people connect with you, brother? How can they link up with you? Where do they follow you? How did they? Man, it's a crazy story.
Yeah. I guess Instagram is like the main place, at Jimmie Bishop 951. Jimmie with an IE. Twitter, I'll be tweeting sometimes when I feel like I got something to say. Jimmie _951. And yeah, I have a website. I got two. I got hyperfollow.com/Jimmie Bishop or inlandepichouse.net, where they can see everything I have going on, like all my videos, all my music, all my merchandise, everything. See, that's pretty much all where they could reach me at. Yeah.
Awesome. And you have a painting that was donated to you today.
I was donated.
Yeah, we're gonna put it on our wall.
Okay, yeah, this one right here.
So all of the guests who don't know, every show we like to donate a painting for a live show, and you chose this painting. We didn't have a lot of options, but
yeah, I chose it.
Yeah, but this is coming from MKC.
Okay.
She's the one who donated the painting today. Why did you choose this one?
I felt like out of the ones that I looked at, this was the most complete and put together. Definitely caught my eyes. I like the color contrast, the red and the blue bubbles. I think it was just the most complete work I saw.
Do you remember a moment you were blowing bubbles anytime in your life?
Yeah, bubbles used to go up, blow the bubbles in the yard and run around and stuff. Definitely, yeah, for sure.
Good stuff. Well, if anyone would like to donate some more paintings so we have more selections for people, you're more than welcome to tune in with us. And yeah, we just want to say thank you for everyone. As always, it's really important to kind of connect with these guests, and we're excited to, introduce you to our community and to everyone who kind of hopped in and be able to kind of chime in, and we really appreciate it. This is an ongoing journey of us trying to get to know about people's lives and to try to just kind of archive as many stories as possible. Yeah, I don't know if you have any other final things. You want anything?
Yeah. As lastly, but thank you for having me. For one, I think this was definitely the most in-depth conversation interview like I've ever done. Man, very, very good.
Yeah, we want to. I think the whole goal of it is just to reflect on your life. We spend so much time like going, but you don't even really realize like all the things that you've accomplished, like just how far you've made it. How much you've done, and so it's just good to take a time and just pat yourself on your back. Like, geez, like look at yourself, like look what you've created.
Yeah.
You molded and be able to build and to who you are, and you have so much more to go. Like so. It feels like, man, you ran out of time, but you don't even realize like how much more time you have, and so taking this moment just to try to just to say, yo, good job, and for everyone out there to know, like, everyone has a story, this is just the beginning of the never ending, this is the beginning of the journey. So never feel like it's ever too late, we're just getting started, right? So I really appreciate that. I'm glad you felt like you learned something from this as well.
Did you get that title from the Never-Ending Story, the movie?
No, actually I didn't. I guess we should go into the meaning and reasoning behind that. But beginning of the Never-Ending was just I don't know how to really explain it. I don't really know how I don't know how to explain it, but maybe in our next show, if we do one, okay. I'll jump into why I do that. We'll have to save that for people to watch the next one.
Yeah.
But to all those who came and joined us today, we really appreciate it. As always, this is something really special. So please share it to anyone if you felt like the story was impactful for you. Please, follow Mr. Bishop as he goes through his journey in his life. You're going to see him hopefully again on the show as well.
Yeah.
To everyone for tuning in, we appreciate it. And please like, comment, and subscribe as always. Have a great night. Peace, love, and happiness, even after death.